And now I would like to welcome Mr. Kamínης Mayor's absence. Mr. Kamínης, you have the floor.
Señor Presidente, es un gran honor para mí estar aquí.
Mr. President, it's a great honor for me to be here participating in the parliamentary work of the Council of Europe. I'd like to thank you personally for the very flattering words which you conveyed to me personally. And above all, in Greece, we should never forget the resolute support which we received from the Council of Europe during the military dictatorship.
Now please allow me to switch to English. It is with great honor that I accepted the invitation to speak today at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe on migration. In the past 2 years, this issue has questioned our core values as Europeans and is most likely to raise many more debates in the years to come. Migration is an issue that I am particularly sensitive to ever since I was the Greek ombudsman for 7 years, until my election in 2010 as the mayor of Athens. I am proud to say that the office of the Greek ombudsman was the first public authority in Greece to draw attention to the rights of migrants and refugees and their living conditions in Greece, starting back to 1998. Today, as the mayor of the city of Athens, one of the cities that has seen the heaviest influx of refugees during the most recent refugee crisis, I can clearly state that the protection of the rights of refugees and migrants and their integration in our societies remains one of the biggest challenges for Europe. Traditionally a country of emigrants, Greece faced the first migration wave in the early 90s as a direct consequence of the political developments in Eastern Europe. Migration grew in the late 90s and early 2000s, mainly from the Near East and Africa. Today, migrants make up approximately 20% of the city's legal residents. As the Greek ombudsman in the past, I reviewed thousands of cases and complaints pertaining to migration and refugee issues. Then I frequently observed that the state's recognition of this new reality for Greece was much slower than the situation required. In our reports over the years, we repeatedly stated that our country was making very slow progress in drawing up a clear and effective legal framework, whether it was for legal migrants, undocumented migrants, or asylum seekers. This slow progress unfortunately led to repeat condemnation of Greece by the European Court of Human Rights. The court did so on issues such as detention conditions, asylum procedures, discrimination on the distribution of social benefits to non-nationals, or, more recently, forced migrant labor. Over the years, the Ombudsman annual reports critically noted that the policies and laws that were adopted helped reproduce the social exclusion of the migrants. Even when the conditions in the country were more favorable, a comprehensive integration strategy for the newcomers was never put in place. In 2011, I took office as mayor of Athens. My mandate coincided with the beginning of a severe economic and fiscal crisis. Social cohesion and solidarity became the biggest priority of my first term as a mayor. While building an extensive network of social services, we adopted a non-discrimination policy for all the people residing in our city, We also fought against the rise of xenophobia by taking a very clear stance against the neo-Nazi party Golden Dawn, for which I was personally physically attacked in 2013. The rising influx of migrants and refugees reached a peak of massive proportions in the summer of 2015. Within the course of a few months, Athens became a transit point for thousands of people on their way to Europe through the Balkan corridor. People were sleeping on public squares and parks of our city, and political response at the time was very slow. Our country lacked the necessary infrastructure to deal with the crisis, but the problem kept growing and growing. In 2015 alone, almost 900,000 refugees crossed Greece, trying to reach other European countries. Our municipality was the first in the country to respond. We immediately offered a municipal space for the creation of an accommodation center within city borders, which is still operating today, hosting more than 2,500 people. In the winter of 2015-2016, despite the lack of competences and resources, we decided to take an even more active role. We designated a vice mayor for migrants and refugees and established a new department in the municipality focusing on refugees and migrants. We didn't have the experience, but we were willing to step forward in order to secure humane living conditions for the people in transit. There was no time, I can assure you, of political debate. It was time for practical solutions. Following the EU relocation agreement, the Athens municipality has implemented a housing program with the UNHCR designed to accommodate people in transit. Following the closing of the borders in March 2016 and the common EU-Turkey statement, many people found themselves stranded in our country. We currently provide housing in 300 apartments rented by the municipality to secure decent living conditions for the refugees. Our new department is growing. Using European funds and donations, we have managed to create a coordination center in the city to provide a variety of services addressed to those people in need. And we are gradually focusing on integration. Today, the conditions for refugee and migrant integration in our society are tougher than before. The economic and fiscal crisis has created social tensions in our city and xenophobia that make our task more difficult. And new vulnerable populations have emerged, such as the unaccompanied minors. In addition to all that, the people that will be granted asylum status in Greece, traumatized by their journey and in a state of passivity for many months, in reality have no desire to stay in the country, but have been left with no other choice. So how do we integrate a population that in reality doesn't want to be integrated? I would like to highlight here the role of European citizens and their cities. Many European citizens have shown that in times of crisis they are willing to share the heavy burden of responsibility and to work out effective solutions. Last year, the city of Athens launched the creation of a network that we called Solidarity Cities in Europe. It's an initiative of European cities, among them Madrid, Amsterdam, Barcelona, and yesterday we heard from the mayor of Strasbourg that this city is also going to participate. It is an initiative to deal with the multiple challenges of our times created by the refugee crisis. So when member states are fighting over relocation quotas, there are some big, important European cities that are taking the opposite stance, and they say, bring us refugees. The refugee crisis has shown that more than ever, local governments can play a crucial role in the protection of human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to draw your attention now finally to what I believe can be a useful lesson for all of us. First and foremost, the migration issue is here to stay. It is not temporary, it is far from being solved, and it will keep knocking on our door for many years to come. It is a concern for all European countries equally, and this is how it should be dealt with. The countries of entry cannot carry this heavy burden by themselves. Europe needs to provide answers and practical solutions to the migration challenges by protecting the fundamental human rights of those people and their right to build a new life in Europe. Experience has shown that every delay or refusal to face this reality turns into a structural problem that is much harder to solve. European states now have substantial experience to build better integration strategies. At the same time, peaceful coexistence requires that the newcomers accept European values and ideals. European cities and local governments can play a central role in implementing integration policies that promote peaceful coexistence and mutual respect among our citizens. We have the advantage of being the governing entity that is the closest to the citizen, and social cohesion is at the core of our policies. But we cannot act on our own. We need support to do it. Better coordination with regional and central governments and more competences and allocation of funding. We need our role to be acknowledged. Migrant and refugee presence should be seen as a unique source of wealth for European cities, as a main component of our inclusive and dynamic development. The way we are going to handle these issues will determine our future as a continent in the years to come. Fighting fear and nationalism by promoting openness, tolerance, and diversity, this is the Europe that we want to build. The European institutions should see cities as a major ally in determining our common future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamίνης.